Hello, I am Lincoln. It's here! The first 4 chapters of Deltarune are finally all out. Now, it would be reasonable to think that Chapter 5 is going to be releasing quite a while from now. However, you also have to remember that Chapter 5 has been in some form of development ever since 3 and 4 started development, because they were all put to development at the same time. Meaning, it's already been worked on for 4.5 years. Not major work, but still work. You also have to think that, for the past year that Chapter 3 has been done, Chapter 5 has been put into the priority position Chapter 4 used to be on. Meaning that it's been a high priority project for a while. And lastly, the team is huge, and they don't have to do all the economics and financial stuff with this one, because it's just an update to the game. So it's probably only going to take until around late 2026 to late 2027. But that's still quite a bit of time, so until then, I want to do a few retrospectives on Deltarune, one for each chapter in particular, in release order. So let's start out by taking a look at Deltarune Chapter 1, The Beginning. The game starts out in this purple void, where this mysterious voice asks you to create your vessel. You then enter the character creator, where you can create any character that you like. After you confirm your awareness of the possibility of pain and seizure, it deletes your character and tells you that your choices in this game do not matter, unlike Undertale. While some people may consider the start of the game as a waste of time, I think that it does a perfect job of showing you that you're not going here to play Undertale 2, you're going here to play Deltarune. You wake up in bed as your new character, Chris. He's a shady teenage boy who doesn't really talk to people. If my input matters, then I guess Toby Fox gets points for me for being relatable. The room is split between him and his brother. His brother is nowhere to be found, but his brother's side of the room is covered in trophies and awards and stuff like that. Meanwhile, on Chris's side of the room, the most interesting things you can find is a mysterious bird cage and bloodstains on the floor. At this point in the game, how it relates to Undertale is unclear, but one thing is clear: Chris is the adopted son of Toriel from Undertale. Toriel tells Chris that they need to hurry so that they can get to school on time, and on the drive to school, Toriel says that Asriel is Chris's brother. This perfectly sets up the parallels between Chris and Kara from Undertale, although Chris just so happens to be an anagram of Frisk, just without the F. Which is an interesting thing about this game, because Deltarune is an anagram of Undertale. At the school, you meet up with Professor Alphys, who just so happens to be your teacher in this game, and tells you that they're doing group projects, and you need to pick a group to join. There are a variety of characters in the class, both new and old. These people just so happen to be Catty Snowy, Temmie Jockington, and Monster Kid, but the 2 most important people in the class, based on story so far, happen to be Birdly and Noelle. Birdly being a smart character who seems to know a lot, but bullies Chris over how not smart he is. He's also an extreme gamer. And Noelle, who is a kind, quiet character who has been friends with Chris ever since they were little kids. She's obsessed with Christmas. As a matter of fact, she comes from the family of reindeer monsters. You're forced to ask to join them, but Birdly doesn't want you to join them, and says that he doesn't want to have to be in a group of 3, especially if it's with Chris. And after they argue for a while, Susie marches into the room. Susie is a purple dragon monster who seems to be a bully with no friends. Her name is an anagram for issue, implying that she's a problem character. In order to make it so that everyone has a fair team of 2, Chris is assigned to be working with Susie. Alphys says that it's time to start the class, but she can't find any chalk. They're told to be chalk in the supply closet down the hallway, so Chris and Susie are told to go there and get the chalk. Turns out Susie was the one who ate the chalk. She then threatens to eat your face, but then decides not to. When we go to the supply closet, it feels like it's emitting darkness out of the room. The 2 of them are scared, but they eventually just enter. They can't find anything, so they decide to leave, but on their way out, the door slams shut, and the floor begins to disappear as they fall into the darkness. Chris wakes up in this purple mountain field, and he's blue now. He eventually finds Susie, And Susie's hair is also purple now, so now she's even purpler than she was before. The UI is also changed from the Undertale UI to feel a lot more like a fantasy RPG. And now you can look at your stats, such as your attack level, your defense level, your guts level. Purple? Yes! The game introduces you to some new gimmicks that weren't in Undertale, such as a run button and overworld enemies. Eventually you meet a silhouette of a creature, and it starts attacking you, so you have to run away. Eventually you find this town that leads up to a castle. There's this hooded figure there that knows your names. He tells you that you're 2 of the 3 heroes of the Deltarune. In Undertale, the Deltarune was just basically this legend that says Frisk will fall from the sky and save all the monsters. But in Deltarune, it says that the world will be destroyed if the balance of light and dark gets offset by there being too many dark fountains in the dark world. Essentially meaning that there needs to be 1 light world and 1 dark world, yet another dark world seems to have opened. The only way to seal the fountains is by using the 3 heroes of the Deltarune: a human, like Chris, a monster, like Susie, and a prince from the dark. And that's exactly who this hooded figure is. He takes off the hood to reveal that he is Browse, Prince of the Dark. However, there appears to be a new kingdom just east of Castletown, and they need to go there to try and save the world. Eventually, Browse gets knocked out of the way by Lancer. Lancer's that silhouette you met earlier. He is the Prince of the Card Kingdom, the Jack of Spades. Which, if you don't remember, I made cookies in the shape of his face, so yeah, I'm kind of a really big Lancer fan. It's the boy! It's the bouncy little pumpkin! We got so many of them! The battle system has been modified so that multiple people can fight enemies at the same time. And the overall look of fights just looks a lot better than Undertale. After a quick fight against Lancer, Lancer is defeated and goes back to the Card Kingdom, where he tries to attack you guys later. Susie says that she's not interested in being a hero, and says that she wants to go home, and she knows that the best way to go home is somewhere to the east, so she decides to go there. So Chris and Rousey have to team up to go chase down Susie. And with that, they enter the great door and enter the field. In the field, every few rooms of combat and puzzles, you will run into an encounter with Lancer, where Lancer says something funny or something like that. And there's a lot of unique enemies that you get to encounter, most of them early on being inspired by playing cards, much like Lancer is. Fun fact, playing card enemies were the first characters ever designed for Undertale, but they were never used in Undertale because Toby Fox intended on doing Deltarune first, but then decided to do Undertale because it seemed a lot simpler. So the events of this game were planned from the beginning. Eventually we find Susie and force her to join us in order to complete a puzzle. And with that puzzle completed, the door to enter the Great Board has opened. The Great Board is a giant chessboard. It doesn't really take that long to complete, but it's got some pretty cool design, and some chess-related enemies. Specifically being the Pawn Men, which are battle enemies, and Black Pawn Men being overworld enemies. But at the end of the Great Board, you meet back up with Lancer, who says that he's too scared to go home because there's a monster blocking its path. It's this cute dog checker piece named C-Round, but when he hits the edge of the board, he becomes K-Round. And so you need to stop K-Round from being violent. Now, normally in battles, when you're trying to go full pacifist, you need to warn all the enemies about Susie's attacks ahead of time in order to stop Susie's attacks from causing any damage, and one-shotting all the enemies you come across. But in this fight, K-Round cannot listen to you, and you can't really control Susie. She just acts on her own decisions, and her own decisions is attack and attack and attack. But that's alright, because if K-Round's damage goes down enough, it will just drink some of this incredibly high-quality milk to replenish all of its HP. If you do the bow action enough, its crown should fall off of it and it'll just turn back to a C-Round. Browse complains to Susie about Susie not helping, and that's when Susie gets angry. She says that she has to be part of this legend and she doesn't want to be a hero, then she's gonna be the bad guy. And she joins Lancer and they become a duo. Now Chris and Rouse need to stop Lancer and Susie. And then you can go past the Great Board and enter the Scarlet Forest. The Scarlet Forest's theme seems to be a lot more Lego related, which is odd. In one of the first rooms, you get chased down by this angel bird that seems to have like this star-like creature in the center, but then you can disarm it by ringing a bell at the end of the room. But if you go back to the left of the room, you will meet him. He will talk about how much he hates the birds, and then proclaim himself as the original Starwalker. Surprisingly, that isn't the only secret of this room. Go back to the right of the room, and then enter the next room. And then you go left to re-enter the Starwalker room. And then you go right to re-enter the next room. Keep doing this for a long time, and eventually you will end up in this broken room known as the Egg Room. It looks almost unfinished. As a matter of fact, there isn't even collision. There's this tree in the room. Behind the tree, it will say that there is a man there, and the man will give you an egg. This man draws a parallel to the refrigerator in the shape of a man in the foggy True Lab in Undertale. Every chapter has an egg room in it, and I will explain how to get there as it goes along. Just like the Lancer portions earlier in the game, a lot of the Susie and Lancer parts are just comedic bits followed by puzzles and battles. After a while, you find this poor lost little boy who is not Lancer, who happens to have a mustache. This poor little boy needs an evil plan to impress his new best friend, so Chris and Rousey get to the blueprint and start drawing something for the boy. I like this part of the game because it draws some neat parallels to the start of the game, where you develop a character at the beginning. And as you probably guessed, this creation will face a similar fate to the creation you made at the beginning. Your design sucked, so we blew it up. Ah, I see. After a quick battle, we convince Susie and Lancer to join our team, and we head to Card Castle. Except for Lancer is a little bit upset, because he doesn't want Susie and everyone to fight his father, because what if his father got hurt? So he sends all the guards to go send them to jail, forever. In the jail, Chris handcuffs himself and eats moss. This is no relevance to the story, I'm just saying it. Susie breaks out of her cell, and on her way to go rescue Chris and Rousey, she gets stopped by Lancer, and they have a fight, except for Lancer doesn't want to fight Susie either, because Susie's his friend. He just doesn't want her to kill his father, and he doesn't want his father to kill her. So this seems like the best option in his eyes. But he misses a lot of his attacks, and it seems like he's gonna die. But then Susie misses her attack, because she doesn't want to kill Lancer either. So they just all team up, and they decide that they're not going to kill the king, but they're just going to try sparing it. Deep down, Lancer is a really nice character. And while he is best friends with Susie, and he doesn't know what Chris's name is, nor Rousey, but he refers to Rousey as Toothpaste Boy, he really is a good guy. However, on the elevator that takes him up to the king, they also had the option to go down to a layer simply labeled question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. When they go down there, they find this mysterious caged jester that tells them that they've been encaged, and that the entire world is outside of this cage. And they need to collect 3 keys to open up the door. He tells you to go to the old shopkeeper to find the first key. So you head back to the field, where you go find this shop that's owned by someone named Sham. Sham gives you the first key and hints on how to find the other keys. Once you collect all 3 keys, you can get into a fight with Jevil, the jester. It's a really hard fight, but once you get done with it, he gets spared, and you get the Jevil's tail and the Shadow Crystal. The Shadow Crystals are all mysterious, and nobody really knows what they do, at least in this point of the story. So you go up the floors of the castle trying to teach Susie how to act. Stuff like, tell this person something that you wish they'd say to you. Which, of course, the reasonable response to that is, you are now unbanned from Free Ham Sandwich Day, and that makes sense to be something that Susie would like. On your way up there, you meet Rule's card, the Duke of Puzzles, the hardest puzzle ever. You then solve that puzzle and you go to the next floor. On the next floor, you meet up with Rule's card, the Duke of Puzzles, who's got an even harder puzzle. You solve that puzzle and then you go to the next floor. On the next floor, Rule's card now has K-Round, with a special control crown that looks the same as the original crown. But now that Susie can act, Susie has a new idea for what to do. Susie's idea is that she picks up Rouse and throws him at the crown until it falls off. Eventually it does, and they head up to go meet the king. They attempt to reason with the king like they said they would, but that plan fell through because they realized just how evil the king is when he threatened to drop Lancer off the cliff. They fight the king until the king becomes too weak. The king eventually spares the heroes, but then when Rouse heals the king to help him survive, he then begins attacking everyone. But luckily, all the people that they spared so far came through the door and stopped the king. It was now time for Chris and Susie to leave and seal the Dark Fountain. But not without one last plot twist.
Oh dear God, Toothpaste Boy doubles as Fluffy Boy!
They seal the Dark Fountain and they head back home. In the Light World, you return to your town known as Hometown, where there are a few side quests you can start. You can talk to Sans, who says he wants you to hang out with his brother the next day. And you can talk to Onion San, who will say that he wants to tell you a secret the next day. That's just about side quests you can set up for now. Now we can head back into our house, where it appears Toyo has baked us another pie. But we can't eat it until tomorrow, so we're just gonna climb up into our bed and go to sleep.
Well, that was unnecessarily disturbing. And the lights run low, and the shadows start to grow, and these lyrics I don't know escaped my memory. When you fall out of bed and your tree guy gives you an egg, and Susie threatened to commit some serious crimes. With that said, that's all until next time. There's gonna be a lot more to cover in the Cybers World retrospective, I promise. Where am I? Anyone? Is anyone out there? Someone! Anyone! Can anyone hear me? It's dark. It's so dark here. Someone, anyone, if you can hear me, say something. Please.